everyone, and welcome to Doing Business in Bentonville. I'm Andy Wilson, and I'm the host today. And we've got one of the greatest podcasts coming up. I have been thinking about this for so very long, and I've got some great friends surrounding me today. And I'm going to introduce them, and then we're going to jump straight into this. But before we do that, I want to say something to all of our viewers and listeners. Thank you. Without you, what I'm about to tell you, it had not have been possible, because what you've done, you have now moved us to 100 countries that we're viewed in, and thank you for that. Because of your continued support, and that you shared these podcasts around the world, and that you have supported us, so thank you so much. All the credit belongs to you for making this happen. We're honored by it, and we are more than honored. We're humbled by that. Okay, we're going now to jump into this. Now, these are three of great friends of mine, and we have one thing in common. We've all worked at Walmart, right?
Yep.
So anyway, we have just, and you're going to hear some story. Listen, I don't know where this thing's really going to go today. So, most of the time I know, okay, I got a script here, hidden back here, and I'm sort of following that script. If you can see my iPad today, there's no script, okay? So, but I'm very comfortable because I trust these men. But this is John Reeves. John, welcome. How long are you at Walmart, John?
I was with Walmart for 22 years.
Okay. And we'll get into all the wonderful things you've done for Walmart. Arthur Emmanuel. Arthur, welcome.
Thank you. Officially 38 years, but I'm still involved in one way or the other. So all in all, about 45 years close to it.
Arthur, I remember the first day I met you, and I think you were a store manager, if I'm not mistaken. John, I remember the first day I met you, and oh man, wait till these stores starts coming out. This is Dallas Dobbs. Dallas, welcome.
Thank you. I was with Walmart for 36 years.
36 years?
I'm not as old as Arthur. He's a whole lot older.
You started as a baby. In fact, I thought when I first met you, you looked like 10 years old. I'm just saying it, okay? And so
I think when I came with the company, and I started in the field.
Yeah.
And I think we all started.
I did. I started.
Yeah. Yes. Assistant manager trainee.
Well, I think you were an assistant when I started.
Really?
Yeah. What year did you start?
1976.
What year did you become a manager?
3 years later.
Okay.
Yeah, 79.
So you were already a manager.
Yeah. So
I started in 82.
And I was Walmart almost 30 years. And so there we are. Great. Well, what we're going to do, here's the title today of our content. We're going to try to stay here, but we see where we go. The title is The Saturday Morning Meeting. Wow. I remember, we did it, and we're going to lead off. John's going to lead us off, and he's going to read a quote from a great book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll read a quote from Sam Walton, Made in America, my second most referenced book, Andy, the Holy Bible being the first.
You can't go wrong.
But here's what he says about the Saturday morning meeting in his book on page 163. He says, take our Saturday morning meetings, for example. Without a little entertainment and a sense of the unpredictable, how in the world could we ever have gotten those hundreds of people, most of our managers and some associates from the general offices here in Bentonville, to get up every Saturday morning and actually come in here with smiles on their faces if they knew all they could expect in the meeting was somebody droning on about comparative numbers, followed by a serious lecture on the problems of our business? Could we have kept the meeting alive? No way. No matter how strongly I felt about the necessity of that meeting, the folks would have revolted, and even if we still held it, it wouldn't be any good at all. As it is, the Saturday morning meeting is at the very heart of the Walmart culture.
Wow. It's great. So what do you guys remember? Let's talk about the Saturday morning meeting. Thoughts?
First of all, again, as John read, Saturday morning meeting became legendary. And every CEO of a major corporation wanted to come and attend this Saturday morning meeting.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was like horse race, meaning our competitors, they worked hard like us Monday through Friday, but then they took a weekend off. And then they came to their offices on Monday. In our case,
We worked hard till Friday. Then we came into the Saturday morning meeting. And when I was store manager, we would have a conference call on Saturdays. Point being, in our case, like in a horse race, we got a head start because of Saturday morning meetings. And we communicated that to the stores. And the stores had those directions executed by Monday. While our competition came to work on a Monday, then they reviewed what happened that week, and then so we had like in a horse race, we had a X number of head start from our competition. Mm-hmm. That's one of my biggest lessons learned. Second thing was, I can go on and on, but I won't give Dallas some time. And we'll talk more about it, but it was from entertainment, celebrities. We used to look forward to who's going to be there this Saturday. Mm-hmm. And my favorite was Ed Nagy.
Yeah.
I don't know. The story about Ed Nagy is he wanted to see what is Andy Wilson wearing on a Saturday morning meeting. He was one of our fashionistas.
Yes.
Or,
sure. Yeah.
In tank tops, especially.
Yeah, well, tank top, colored shirts. And Ed Nagy used to just make a ball with it. And I'm going to Andy Wilson's yard sale. One day we had fun and we developed relationships, Dallas.
I think we gotta back up a little bit to talk about the room, actually, to be honest with you. The Saturday morning meeting when I started in 1984 was in maybe a 40 by 40 room in the corner of warehouse number 1. And to get to it, you had to walk from the offices through the warehouse. And it was a room that was exposed studs with paneling. No insulation. So in wintertime it's cold. In summertime it was hot as all get out. But you had to get there early. One of the things about Saturday morning meeting was it's supposed to start at 7:30, right? But when Sam was still there and live, it started when Sam got there.
Yeah. Right.
And if he got there at 6:45, then that's when the meeting started. But you better be prepared. I think when you really think about the Saturday morning meeting, one of the purposes was to let everybody know what the rest of the company was up to.
Exactly.
And I learned so much in the Saturday meeting. A lot of people didn't want to come, didn't want to work on Saturday, especially people that we brought in from outside the company. But inside the company, I looked forward to it. I will tell you, I never went to one without a knot in my stomach because Sam would wander around, and you never know, he might stop and sit on the table right in front of you, and as stuff was going on, he'd turn around and he'd say, "So what were your numbers last week?"
Yeah.
And all the merchandising went to that meeting with a cheat sheet on their numbers. Mm-hmm. Because if you got called on, you wouldn't remember them. Mm-hmm. So you had to have it written down somewhere, right? But it was always a unique.
Yeah.
And just like you said about this podcast, there's no agenda.
Yeah.
There was never an agenda.
Right.
We knew things that were going to happen, but we didn't really have an agenda. We celebrated heroes. You remember all of you guys bringing people in from the field, department managers that had done extraordinary things, and we celebrated those heroes. We talked about our weaknesses, and we addressed them. One of the major things that always kept a knot in my stomach was people like you and Arthur traveling the stores during the week that on Saturday found something that we screwed up, right, John?
Yeah.
And that was fun.
Arthur and I didn't do much of that, I'm sure.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think
They were
either
the
of you guys-
biggest offenders now.
Yeah, no. And I think that was a real positive about both of you guys, in that when you found a problem, you called us,
Yeah.
and we dealt with it. And proactively, by the Saturday meeting, we had to fix.
That's
and
right.
we'd stand up and talk about what that fix was. And the neat thing about that was it wasn't an opportunity to slam dunk the buyer or the person that made the mistake. It was, how can we translate this to the rest of the company?
That's right.
And how can we all learn from it? And it always ended up being positive.
Yeah.
John, what do you?
Well, I remember the year I came into the office, 1987. I was in the sales promotion area at Dallas that you were familiar with.
Yeah.
In fact, I may have replaced you. I don't know.
Yeah, you came in
Mark
behind me.
Clark, but
Did you really?
Yeah.
one of the responsibilities that I had was for the auditorium. Number one, another responsibility was the VPI program. That was
You better
very.
explain what that is.
The VPI program is the volume producing item program, and made famous by Sam Walton and his moon pies. And I just found out today that Dallas Dobbs was the buyer of moon pies.
And he's gonna. We're going to have to let him tell his story before we finish.
That must have been a fun year for Dallas. But in 1987, my first Saturday morning meeting, because I had the VPI program, I also had to solicit all the entries from the store, and we'd get thousands of them. So I had two ladies that were just great in the sales promotion department that would go through all of those. We'd give them a little bit of advice on, what to look for, and they would land on my desk on Wednesday, the VPIs, and I would go through and select 3 winner and 2 runner-ups for every region in the company. So it was a lot of entries, and then we would have a flyer or a handout that we would have on Saturday morning. Well, knowing that it started when Sam got there, and the fact that the VPI program was very dear to his heart, we had to have those passed out in the auditorium prior to anything going on. And at that time, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but they had a stage in the auditorium, and they had tables, and the executives would be on the stage. So it was Sam and David Glass and Don Soderquist, all the executives, and then a chair on the end for me because I presented the VPI program. So talk about a knot in your stomach the very first time you do that, sitting next to Sam. But man, was he ever great. And he loved to talk about merchandise. So I would present the VPI, and he would elaborate on it. Now, backing it up a day, I always had to communicate with the buyers to let them know that, hey, one of their items has been selected, and so that somebody like Dallas would be prepared at the meeting to hold up the item and talk about it. So, that was my first Saturday meeting, was actually being up on the stage, and a lot of nerves, but man, what a great opportunity for myself, because it was exposure to other people in the company. And a year later, I got my first buying job, and most of that due to the exposure that I got from the VPI program in the Saturday morning meeting.
Yeah, my first, now that you mentioned it, my first Saturday morning meeting, I remember the date, Arthur. It was July the 10th, 1984. Yeah. And back then, everybody that came into the office, they introduced at the Saturday morning meeting.
Right.
And Bill Smith, you guys remember Bill Smith?
Yeah, sure.
He was my boss at the time. He was the director of sales promotion.
Right.
Marketing now, but sales promotion. And he stood up and introduced me. And I'll never forget it. I had a visual of it that I'll keep till the day I die. That front table in the old meeting room, Sam was sitting on the front of it. And David Glass was up there, and Paul Carter, and Jack Shoemaker, and Don Soderquist, and several others. But Smith got up and he introduced me, and I was, just going to stand up and wave and say, "Hey, I'm glad to be here." And after he introduced me, Sam looked at it. It was quiet for a second, and Sam looked at Bill and he said, "Well, Bill, we're on a hiring freeze. Can you tell me why Dallas is here?" And you know what Bill said?
Yeah.
He said, "Well, Sam, I don't think I could tell it as good as Dallas can. Dallas, why don't you tell him why you're here?" So I said something really unprofound, I'm sure. But I made it for another 34 years, so it was okay.
Oh my gosh! Let me read a quote from Sam Walton. Then I want these guys to keep going, but Sam, it's so many quotes. But one of these Sam's, one of the quote I want to read today, I think is very pertinent to what we're talking about. Sam says, "Communicate everything you possibly can to your partners." His partners were all of us and all the people at Walmart, the associates, and then anyone else that had business with Walmart. He said, the more they know, the more they'll understand. The more they understand, the more they'll care. Once they care, there's no stopping them. And we could say it was no stopping us. Because that's exactly what we were doing on Saturday morning, Fridays also. But Saturday mornings, because we all grew up in the stores, we worked on Saturdays. We did that. So going to this was like a celebration for us, wasn't it? So, we got to hang out, with the leaders of Walmart.
Right.
And here we were young and growing up. And we were just drinking in all of that knowledge and wisdom and information, and then there was no stopping.
Right.
So go ahead.
Besides getting a head start on a competition.
Yeah.
To me, every Saturday when we walked in, if you remember, there was a sign said, "Through these doors walk ordinary people doing extraordinary things."
Yeah.
And every Saturday when I walked through there, it made me feel, hey, I am an ordinary person, and this company is giving me an opportunity to do extraordinary thing. And then when we went in, through those doors, because a company like a retail company and many others, they are so interdependent on each other. The Saturday morning meeting, to what you just read, was Sam's, and the culture of this company was to communicate with each other, build relations. You don't know who will be sitting next to. I was in operation, and Dallas will be sitting next to me, and the guy from the logistics will be sitting next to
legal
on this, or legal. We said,
Yeah.
So we built some intra-departmental relationships that came in very handy to move, and the communication. So the communication was then and now is a key core value of Walmart. So that was the other big deal for us. And then once again, as you mentioned, have fun. There was a sign, if you remember, Sam Walton in a straw hat that said, "Don't take yourself so seriously. Put on a silly hat and sing a song."
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
And by the way, the other lesson was you better be prepared for your particular area.
Right.
You have no clue what is gonna be asked of you, and some of us who were in the field, we'll get there at 6 o'clock in the morning and review all our stores because you
The
have
100
no
plus
clue.
store, 120, 30 stores that we had.
Because Sam will get there and he may ask a store like Atoka, Oklahoma. It's a little bitty store, but he could ask you a question if that was your store. Hey, what's going on in Atoka? I saw their numbers and they look good. So, or bad, whatever it is. So us regionals had to be prepared with all our 100 stores.
Most of the time he already knows the answer.
Yes.
So you better not say something that wasn't real.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so did the other leaders. The leaders like the glasses and the soda course. We were blessed.
Right.
And in those meetings, like you said, us young pups, we got the opportunities to, build relationships with senior leadership.
Right.
And so on. So be prepared, walk through those doors with ordinary people like us doing extraordinary thing, communication, have fun. And there's many other key learnings from that, but that's the ones that come to mind.
And our jobs, all of our jobs in the office, I don't care who you were, even if you were the janitor, it was a situation.
And to your point of VPI, yeah, it was fun.
Right.
But there was an opposite award to VPI called Fish. First in, still here. So
I think I won it a few times.
I wanted one, seriously. And that was part of the fun.
Yeah.
Okay, you picked an item, it's doing great. And we have fun with it. You'll get a plaque for that, whoever. And the senior leadership had to participate in it.
Oh, yeah.
David Glass was awarded a fish award with an actual fish, a stinking fish. Because
We gave that at one of the yearly meetings. Right.
Fish award. Part of being, have fun. And the message there of the VPI was, Mr. Glass always used to say, we are a merchandise-driven company.
Yeah.
And from that generated the VPI thing that Sam came up with, just to keep us focused on merchandising, and particularly he was one of the best, and like you were, item merchant.
Yeah.
He loved item merchandising.
Yes, he did.
And we used to have fun with those items,
Right.
merchandising in the Saturday morning meetings.
I think so. And from the two merchants in the room with us, but let's talk about that. But we were a merchandise-driven company. We are. Walmart is a merchandise-driven company. You sit when you walk through stores today, even, which is awesome. That philosophy is still here in Walmart. But that's a big deal. And I don't know what your job was. You had to have a had an item, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Sam required everyone to be and we'll talk about the stores in a bit. But talk about that from your perspective, both of you.
Well, we had after the morning meeting Saturday morning, we always had a merchandise meeting, and as a buyer, if you weren't standing up talking about your business, your boss thought you weren't doing your job.
Yeah,
and it was all around items. Usually, we'd get up and show an item that we had found, or a department manager had sent a VPI in on that was doing really well, and how they did it, and like the moon pie, I tell you I had a store call me one Monday morning on moon pies and say, I had something I wanted to share with you. I didn't have time to turn it in the VPI, but I ordered, back in those days, they were ordering with the red books. Remember red books?
Right. Yeah.
Where you had inventory of one half of the square and what you're going to order in the other half. And he put down to order 20 cases. Well, the person at store level that keyed it in, which we didn't have computers then either.
right.
Keyed in 200 cases. and it will take a while for a store to sell 200 cases of a moon pie. But he decided that he'd go to the front. He built a display of moon pies, and he brought a microwave up there with him too, which was a brand new thing in the industry, microwaves were. And he would heat a microwave, for 10 seconds, a moon pie in the microwave, and then cut it out and just hand it out to people as they came in. And sold through that end cap, 200 cases in one weekend, a Friday, Saturday, and Monday, because we were closed on Sunday. And it was interesting. I went and shared it with Sam. And you know what Sam's VPI was the next year?
Yes, we do all know. Moon pies.
Well, that was part of it, but his one of his real VPIs was microwave oven. And that's when they started demonstrating cooking in microwave ovens at the front door that started the sampling program in the entire world.
I didn't realize that's what I was sorry.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it was really something.
Sam would always tell us if we would if it was a mistake, we would turn it into something positive. That was our mindset, and that's exactly what happened.
Oh, yeah.
People talk about making lemonade out of a lemon.
Right.
VPI program was that also. Right. It was underdeveloped items. How can you find them? And it was items, and it was a mistake. But rather than crucifying someone, they gave them an opportunity. How do you turn that lemon into a lemonade? So we learned a lot from VPI, and then of course the underdeveloped items and so on.
Right. That reminds me, Arthur, of one of the things I remember distinctly about you in the Saturday morning meeting was the bucket of time program. The bucket of time program. That was the philosophy with that was, are there items out there that you can add on to a purchase, that you could add on and put in the cart? And if I remember right, that was championed by Arthur Emmanuel himself. And he would get up in the meetings and talk about bucket of time items and buck. That's right. Bucket of time. And that was another way that, you got everybody that was at that meeting together. And it took people, that could take on the responsibility of.
Well, the background of that was, we at that particular time, I forgot the exact numbers, but we had almost like 100 million transactions
Right.
a week.
Right.
And then we used to talk about cross merchandising. The sales were down, and it started off with, hey, if we can just get those 100 million transactions, just one more dollar, that's $100 million a week.
Right.
And you do that through cross merchandising and this and that, and we got so much support from you guys and the whole company up to the department manager level. So it was not that buck didn't become famous or successful because of us in the home office. It was that department manager at the store that made it happen.
Right.
That's right.
They came up with more cross-merchandising ideas than we could ever think of.
Right.
And it got the whole company excited about buck at a time. And of all the things I did in my career at Walmart, from being a regional vice president, senior VP, opening Argentina and Brazil, people still remember me.
Yeah.
Just buck.
I remember. Yeah. Let me read another quote, and I want to hear you guys think about things around this. But the other quote, really, what I'm going to read, he says, the key to success is to get out into the store and listen to what the associates have to say. It's terribly important for everyone to get involved. Our best ideas come from clerks and stock boys. So what do you think of what do you think of when you hear Sam? Because he told us that every Saturday morning to get in the stores, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Andy, it's a philosophy that I adhere to today. I mean, I still get in the stores. It drives my wife crazy sometimes because what do you have? You're at the stores again. But things change a lot, and having your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the store, I think, is critical to no matter what you do or how your career evolves. It's still where things happen. That's where things happen, and I always look at what people are putting in their carts and wondering why they made that decision. Even with omni-channel and everything else that you have going on today, I still think that's the most important thing is that transaction that happens at the store. And the people that are out there every single day, they're the ones that know it best.
And Saturday morning meetings became a big vehicle to keep moving that forward. Because us, we were in stores every week, and we would give an example of what was happening in a store. And you guys, as merchants, were in the store. And Saturday morning, himself, he would bring up or recognize some department manager or a store manager or a clerk from that week that when he was in the store and other leaders. And at every Saturday morning, if you go back and look at it, there was examples given why that saying that you just read was so important, that our best ideas come from the store. And those ideas were shared by us at every Saturday morning meeting, one or two here and there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was always. I love to tour the store with Sam.
Oh, yes. I want to talk about some of our store tours for Sam, so go ahead. That's great.
But he was just a bowl full of questions. And the store managers would all be nervous as a cat when Sam would be in the area, right? And it was always a
Phone calls were burning up.
That's
man.
right.
Where is he? We tracked him.
Yeah.
We didn't have satellite. We tracked him.
That's right. That's right. But when I was in marketing, and I traveled with him, he'd always give me his yellow pad, and because he talked with his hands. And I'd take the notes, and I'm sure he did that with everybody that traveled with him. But his interest was really in the store associates, and he'd see, a department man. We'd be walking down the Action Alley and with the group touring, and he'd see a department manager an aisle over back in the cross aisle section, and he'd leave the group and he'd go back and find that person just to talk.
And you knew not to follow him when he left that group because he needed some one-on-one. Because he went back there to ask that department manager how that store manager was doing, and he wanted the real deal, and he got it, because they just trust each other.
Yeah, right.
But to this point, that's where he went and learned. We all did.
And I loved touring competition with him.
Oh,
that was always fun. I mean, because he was always looking for something they were doing better than us.
Right. Dallas, I'm going to underline that. And the first tour I've done with Sam in competition, I talked about what they were doing poorly. My mistake. I was called out. That's fairly in a nice way. But in other words, what I learned was he's not interested in that. He wants what they're doing great so we can improve that. Right.
There's a very famous story about that. Him and Bud and another executive, they were visiting stores and went into a competition. And this other key executive at that time, who was pretty instrumental in Walmart's success, they came out, so he's driving, he said, "Okay, Bud, what do you see?" And Bud,
his brother, right?
Yeah, Bud was his brother. So asked the other executive, "What do you see?" A dirty store and, the auto stocks and all that. And the executive turned to him and said, "What do you see, Mr. Sam?" He said, "I found these pillows that they're selling 2 for $1. 2 for $5 or something like that." He said, "That's a great item. So-and-so, you need to get with the buyer and get us those pillows." to your exact point. Yeah. But he always looked at, and I was a store manager in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And, get a call, pick me up at the airport. Huh?
Yeah.
Went to the airport, picked him up. First thing he does is, let's go to Kmart.
Yep.
We went to Kmart.
Usually did that before you hit the Walmart store.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yes,
always.
That's what he did.
Always.
Well, he had already counted the cars
in the parking lot
when he was flying over.
That's right.
And I'll be damned. He found out more about Kmart from a little old department manager there because he had that ability about him, like being a grandfather kind of an ability. He would find out more about the competition, what's selling good, what's selling bad, this and that. And then we went to my store.
Yeah.
So competition piece, and we learned all that. So he practiced everything he preached. So did our other leaders, the glasses. And
he had such respect in the industry. Yeah. Everybody knew him too. And I went and toured a Target store with him once, and we did that before we hit the Walmart. And as soon as he hit the front door, people knew him. The store manager for the Target store ended up within 2 or 3 minutes.
Wanted a picture with him.
And wanted a picture with him. And Sam was he was just one of those people that you just trusted too. And of course, Sam, before we left the store, he wanted to hire the manager, right? Because he's running a good Target store. But Target had just implemented a new receiving program. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a number. And Sam had been talking to the store manager. He said, "Hey, I understand you guys have this new receiving program. Can you tell me about it?" And the guy says, "Sure, let me just take you in the back. I'll walk you through it." And he walked us through the whole thing. I mean,
it's amazing.
And Sam came back with a plan for Walmart, how to take what they were doing and improve on it.
And connecting it to Saturday morning meetings, we were expected to be in competition. And we were expected to give some kind of an update on some kind, not every Saturday, but it'd be different person, whether it be merchant. He would ask you, have you been to so-and-so competition? Did you notice this and that? And all that became part of the Saturday morning meeting.
Right.
It was not only talking about Walmarts, but it was also talking about competition.
Right.
And in every area, not just operators or merchants, and it was the construction people, somebody's building a better store than us, or had this idea about this in their area and all that. So we'll talk about competition in those, and that was communicated to everyone.
Right. Hey, I remember him saying in the Saturday morning meeting, he would say, "Who's been in the stores this week? Who's been out?"
Right. Exactly.
Other than the
And if you
operator.
didn't volunteer, he might call on you. Where did you go this week? What did you see? So you had to be ready. And
Well, so as merchants, we traveled once a month with Original.
Yeah.
For 4 days, go out on Monday morning, sometimes Sunday evening, come back on Thursday, and then you'd get prepared for the Friday and the Saturday
Merchants,
morning
you were
meetings.
expected to, what we had that time, eat what you cook.
Yeah, and that was once.
Talk about that. What is for our viewers, eat what you cook.
eat what you cook. And they still do it today, by the way. I still see mentions of eat what you cook. But basically, it was as a buyer, you would go work in the store for a couple of days. And normally I would go and set a modular. Like if I had just had a modular land in the stores, we'd go out and set it. Sometimes it'd be an overnight thing, and where you'd bring in your supplier base and all meet there, and basically you would learn from the eyes of the store what your product is and how they perceive it. And my goodness, could you learn a lot about how they execute your items and what you can take back to do better as you were planning for the upcoming seasons or whatever. And you know what, Andy, there were a lot of fun too. We had a lot of fun.
But I think what you just said too, what's highlighted is that you would take the supplier with you.
Right.
So from the standpoint of suppliers, they were bought in just as much, almost as much as you were to the success of Walmart, because they were your partners.
Right.
And of course now we have this opportunity to live in Northwest Arkansas, where there's over 3,000 supplier offices in this area now, and I had Tom Mucci on recently. He talked about Procter & Gamble was one of the first that got here, but that's the thing. It was all such a team, wasn't it? Even outside the Walmart, if you didn't work for Walmart, but like the merchant, they were part of your team.
Right. Sam used to talk about that as a win-win relationship.
Right.
There's no buildings out there that had Procter & Gamble on the front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no manufacturing facilities that Walmart owned. So for both of us to be successful, we both had to win.
Yeah.
Both of us had to make money. I can tell you when Sam renegotiated the price on moon pies, we went from 14.5 cents to 12.5 cents a piece. And he was tenacious on it.
Yeah.
But you know what? Once the company came back and said, "Okay, we'll give you 2 cents off," Sam thanked him for it, and then he said, "Now, can you make money at 12.5 cents?"
Mm-hmm.
And the supplier, he was speechless for a minute, and he said afterwards, after Sam left the meeting, he said to me, "I've never had a retailer care if I made any money or not." But it had to be a win-win situation, or neither one of us would have done.
That's a great story.
Yeah, and that he had a special relationship with suppliers that he preached to us. And it was not only him. David Glass did that, Shoemaker. And we were taught or preached to at Saturday morning meetings, be firm, but be fair.
Right.
And as I think about what's going on right now with these tariffs and all that, we do need to remember, be firm, but be fair.
That's good.
And that was our reputation. And every once in a while, John, some knucklehead will kind of, go his own way, but be firm, but be fair. Because we are in a business to buy and sell. Selling happens in a store.
Right.
So you got to have clean stores, you got to have this, that. Buying happens with a supplier. Like you said, we were in no manufacturing. That principle still applies.
Right.
Buy, sell, and then there's a lot of dots in between.
Right.
That they have to play their role in it. So, but be firm, but be fair. And these trying times, our buyers and everyone else that deals with the outside firm, just remember, Be firm, but be fair. And like you said, he asked this moon pie guy, "Can you make money at 12.5 cents?" Because he was interested in their well-being too.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't to break them or to let's file for bankruptcy. And then it just kind of become part of the culture.
Yeah.
And for a company our size to believe in all that thing happened because of Saturday morning meeting.
Right.
Because those kind of messages
That's where we shared it.
got to at everyone, whether you were in construction, legal, this.
Right.
So
Should I tell the story about the relative to direction coming out of Saturday meeting about the sign shop?
I think you should. And then we're going to begin to wrap. So you gentlemen be thinking about that. And but please do, because that's a great story.
Yeah.
It's a great culture story.
Well, and Arthur mentioned it. After the Saturday meeting, we all came out of that meeting with a to-do list, basically. And everybody that was in that meeting, if they traveled to stores, they took that list with them. And before I came into the office, I was in store 115. Do you know where that is? West Point, Mississippi.
Yeah. I was just down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you Amory or Aberdeen?
Yeah, Amory and Aberdeen.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I was in both of those.
and I was
stores.
in West Helena, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I had that store.
But
We're in the South, John.
I was in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
But anyway, we were in an old store 115, and 41,000 square feet. But that was the average size of the stores back then. That's a neighborhood market today, right? But we did. Those stores built this company. But we had an old building and an old sign, and the sign was a wooden sign, and it was lighted with spotlights, and we were getting an updated sign, and the Mitchell building is where we used to make all of our signs. They'd throw them on the back of the truck, and then they'd drive them to the store, and we had a person that would put them up. So we knew that we were getting a new sign. So Monday morning, I'm opening the store at 6 o'clock in the morning. I hear this knock on the front door, bang, 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 and I look out because the cash offices back then were at the front of the store, and we were preparing to get the store open. And I looked out, and there's this guy in a blue jeans and a flannel shirt and a ball cap. So I went down there and I said, "Hey, we're not open yet." And he goes, "Hey, I'm so-and-so from the sign shop. I've got your new sign I got to put up." I said, "Great. Oh, great. We've been expecting you." Opened the door up and started to tell him, what he could do, where he could plug his drill up and all that stuff. And he goes, "Well, before we do that, I'd like to get a cup of coffee and I'd like to walk your store." And I said, "Well, okay." Well, we had all gotten that list from the Saturday meeting. This was Monday morning. And he had those notes. And he walked the store looking for this feature and for this modular and walked the back room, which was really important back then because it was door to floor, right? You didn't keep anything in the back room that you couldn't. But that was part of the beauty in the communication coming out of the Saturday morning meetings, that everybody was on the same page.
Dallas, to sum up our conversation, the Saturday morning meeting, it was a tool for communication. It was a tool for motivation, and it was a tool for learning. But what you just described is a tool for reinforcing the culture.
Yeah.
Because a guy from a sign shop had the notes from Saturday morning meeting. So Sam used to say, if we can get this message from here to the person pushing the shopping carts in, then we're successful. We've done it. We've got the message all the way down to the people. Now, the bottom may be someone pulling the carts in, but if we didn't have those carts, we do a lot less business. So that person is still very, very important. So I'm not minimizing the importance of that person, but that's what Sam's goal was, wasn't it? Is to get the message all the way, and we did it. We got it done, and everyone got it done in those days.
And it still can be done and must be done. You see John Furner out in the stores regularly. Right. You see Doug McMillan out in the stores. but there needs to be more than just John Furner and Doug McMillan.
Right, you're right.
And every division,
Right.
and so on, and the communication piece.
Right. Perfect. Dallas, any closing comments?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to get together with you guys.
Yes.
It's always good to see old friends, and we worked really hard in those days. We came in at 6 a.m. When I took the job, they told me I had to be here at 7:30. If I wasn't in my chair at 6 o'clock, I was late, and we never left till after 6.
That's right. And you didn't get a good parking spot.
And that's right.
That's the problem.
And when I first got here, we parked in the ditch in front of, in front of the office. And when it rained, you had to go move your vehicle or you'd be covered up with water. But
John, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just we've talked a lot about the business part of this and a little bit about the fun, but I remember specifically some really, really fun things that took place in the Saturday morning meeting. And one of them was on a Saturday morning, the Razorback football team was playing South Carolina and Fayetteville. I think probably a 1 o'clock kickoff. Well, like Arthur mentioned, everybody that was anywhere near Bentonville wanted to go to the Saturday morning meeting. And in this particular case, it was the head coach of South Carolina, Sparky Woods, shows up. And of course, Sam, get up and say something. And then Sam said, okay, well, we need to call the Hogs.
Always.
We need somebody to lead it. Sparky, why don't you lead us? Well, anybody that ever worked with Sam could not refuse anything that he asked you to do. So Sparky Wood said, okay, everybody, nobody says any word about this. It doesn't get out. He led everybody in calling the Hogs. So I thought that was testament to the influence of Sam Walton. And the other one that I distinctly remember was one Saturday morning when Sam said, things are a little we need to perk things up a little bit. Why don't we have a talent show? And he points somebody, you organize the talent show. And for the next probably 10 Saturday morning meetings, we had Walmart associates that had talent.
Yeah.
Some that didn't.
Some that I remember some that didn't.
that was one of those.
They would sing or dance or do skits or whatever, and it just lightened everything up.
What was the song they used to sing? Oh Lord, it's hard to be.
It's hard to be humble.
And Sam will lead it. He'll sing.
And I also recall the time that David, Sam, and Don Solis on Easter put the Easter hats on and sang Easter Parade.
I remember that.
Everybody. So it was stressful. Yes. But when you showed up, like Dallas said, you didn't want to miss.
Right.
You would say, yeah, this is my Saturday off, but gosh, what's going on that I'm missing? You would worry about what you missed, and you'd find out.
Competitive fun spirit, him doing the hula at Wall Street. Right. The chief financial officer riding a white horse downtown Bentonville with a pink wig. Right. It was, all of Saturday meetings were...
Yeah.
For me, Andy, to close it off, and I recommend all my friends, your friends, and our friends that are listening to the podcast to read this book. Go buy it.
Yeah.
It's called Built to Last. Mm-hmm. And this book compared companies in that century, the ones who have been successful and the ones who failed. And the companies that held on to their core values succeeded.
Right.
And they compared Walmart to one of the competitors, I won't name them. Mm-hmm. But this is what was written about Walmart, the reason for their success and their core values. Walmart, we exist to provide value to our customers, to make their lives better via lower prices and greater selection. All else is secondary. Mm-hmm. Werner and Doug are still practicing that.
That's right.
Yep. And the company is still practicing that. Swim upstream. Buck conventional wisdom. That was Sam. Yeah. 8% net profit on the bottom line. That was swimming upstream when he did the hula. And on it goes. Still applies. Be in partnership with employees. What you read.
Right.
Still applies today. Work with passion, commitment, and enthusiasm. Still applies, and our people are doing that. Run lean, expenses. Expenses still matter. Mm-hmm. and pursue ever higher goals still matters. And then some companies such as Johnson & Johnson and Walmart made their customers central to their ideology. Still, if you listen to the messages from the key leaders, whether it be Sam's or Doug or John, still matters. So that's the key to the success of Walmart. That culture was created through that Saturday morning meeting. All these things were communicated to us in those days in Saturday morning meetings. Today we have different means of communicating, but these core values still apply. Still apply.
Right.
And I had a meeting today. I just drove through the new campus. The building I was in, you know the name of the building? Old Roy.
Yeah.
The culture is still
The campus is a history
in itself. Yeah.
It is.
And but thank you so much.
Yes.
Just like John and Dallas, I feel honored to be part of this podcast and willing to help anyone that I can help to continue to tell the Walmart story, because Walmart success is a success for a customer. Walmart success with the employees or with the suppliers is providing jobs to the millions of people around the world in the communities that if they didn't have a job, don't know what they will do. So when Sam said, "Hey, look out, world, here we'll come, we'll improve the standard of living around the world," the present day company is still practicing that. My only request is that we keep preaching, be firm but be fair, especially during these trying times right now.
Well said, Arthur. Arthur, thank you. Dallas, thank you. John, thank you. It's been a pleasure to all of our viewers and guests. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful time together. We're great friends, and I hope you've really enjoyed our podcast. Let's hear from you. When we post this podcast, you can go to our website. It's doingbusinessinbentonville.com. You can check it out. There will be, of course, our podcast will be there along with some bios and information on our guests today. So you can reach out to them if you would like, and there'll be information there. Again, to all of our viewers and watchers, again, thank you for making this happen. We really appreciate you. Gentlemen, what a day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.